tired of hitting poor shots and shooting high scores? Wouldn't it be nice to make solid, consistent contact more often? Hit more fairways off the tee and more greens with your approach shots. Lower your 3 putts per round and shoot lower scores consistently. Lessons with Bernard Sheridan at Impact Zone Golf at Tiburon Golf Club in Naples is the fastest way to lower your scores and start making the game fun again. Call 239-236-5536 and schedule your lesson today. Remember, if you improve your impact, you improve your game. It's that simple.
Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf podcast that interviews the best and brightest minds in the golf industry. Now, here's your host, Bernard Sheridan.
Rich, welcome to Breaking Par. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure. So, I know that you have quite a story to tell our audience of your experience in the game and where it has led you to today and what has happened along the way. So first, tell us, without really what happened to you, but when was the first time that you picked up a golf club?
Good starting spot at that point. I was 11 years old, and I had an uncle that absolutely loved the game of golf. Uncle Howie introduced me to the game. He lived down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We went down and visited them down there about the time, I guess, of the Oakmont PGA Championship and all, and introduced me and my brother to the game of golf and put clubs in our hands and gave us a set of clubs that we could bring back to Syracuse, New York, where I'm from. And fortunately, we had an 1.5-acre backyard that I used basically as a experimental stage and where I could hit as many golf balls as I wanted to in the evenings. And, well, I guess I loved the game so much I never was a problem for my parents from that standpoint because I was always in the backyard hitting golf shots in the evening time and learned to play the game that way. Didn't have any formal instruction until I really went to college and all, but became a scratch golfer by the age of 14. Worked through there and walked on to the University of Miami golf team. Had some great coaching there with Coach Norm Parsons and all, and never really was able to crack the lineup and all there. But from a standpoint of learning the game and eventually, becoming, a competitive player and all, I turned professional after graduating University of Miami. I had studied sports psychology there, had a great training there with Dr. Jody Yamber, and exercise science as well. So I had the biomechanics, I had the exercise, the relaxation element of it, as well as sports psychology, and that was really helpful for me. Became a college golf coach at Barry University after spending 3 years as an assistant coach for University of Miami with Chuck Winship as well. So I had, 2 Hall of Fame college golf coaches helping me and teach me how to do it, and started the, let's say I put the Barry University program on its right track, and we grew the program and raised a significant amount of money for the program, took it to the next level, and all for that. And now Barry University's golf team has become the top golf team in Division II. So that's really a wonderful thing from there. And the coaching staff down there has done a great job of building on it and from a standpoint of endowed scholarships. So that was a big part of our journey. After Barry University, I came up here to South Carolina and I was running some golf courses. I got more on the management side of the game, the marketing side of the game. And did that for about 10 years. But September 25th, 2008 will be a day that, will be remembered for sure. On that day, I had a catastrophic injury. We were playing around a golf down at Cassique, down at Kiowa Island. And as we were coming in the rain, going down a very steep hill, turning hard left, I was ejected from the golf cart. And there's a 2-inch curb at the corner of the cart path, and I broke my neck, broke my back, had 4 skull fractures, had brain damage in every lobe of my brain, had the equivalent of multiple strokes, multiple aneurysms, and literally died at the scene. Luckily, they revived me. They were able to then paralyze me, put me in a coma, and airlift me to the local trauma center, where they said I had a 0% chance to live. Well, finding that out after the fact is an interesting thing at that point. But later on, I woke up. I was temporarily paralyzed from the neck down. That left an indelible mark. That my post-traumatic stress afterwards would always go back to that spot. As I said, eventually I learned how to walk and talk again. 12,000 hours of rehab, going through countless chronic pain, chronic inflammation, chronic fatigue, chronic sleep disorder, epilepsy, addiction to pain meds, you name it, I had it. Year plus to have for the bones to heal. It was a very interesting thing from there, but eventually I was able to pick up a golf club again. And when I could pick up the golf club again, the passion for the game of golf was there, and I used it as my rehab. So we've covered a lot of ground, Bernie, so you want to have a couple questions in there, I'm sure.
Oh, it's like amazing. I mean, it's to start off with, I mean, it's absolutely, you know, you can tell that you were very passionate about the game before this accident happened. Mm-hmm. And then once this accident happened, you know, your indelible strength, and not just strength of physical, but probably mental strength and strength of character, brought you back to be able to fight this and come back to life, and then to start to play the game again. It's really a very remarkable story, and I know that now you're using this journey that you've gone through to help other players and to help other people who have gone through similar type situations. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And you know, what was very interesting is, you know, I used my passion for the game of golf as my own golf therapy. And when I found acupuncture to go with that, we were able to start healing, you know, getting rid of some of the chronic conditions. My post-traumatic stress was alleviated. My chronic pain was alleviated. My addiction to painkillers was eliminated as well. And you know, it was amazing there. And as I used golf as my own therapy tool, recovery tool, my friend from our church, his name is Fred Gutierrez. Fred is now known as the partially paralyzed golfer. Fred is paralyzed the entire left-hand side of his body, top of his head, bottom of his foot. And he had a gunshot wound to the head and was paralyzed on that whole left side. And when he saw me recovered, he was inspired. At the time, he could walk 2 holes maybe. He was shooting about 200. But when I told him I would help him any way I could, it was very interesting. Together we worked on improving the quality of his life. And we found Botox injections for his spasticity on his paralyzed left side, and his pain level went way down. Then we found scalp acupuncture, which rebooted his central nervous system, and he was able to then lift and have some voluntary movement of his left arm and his left leg. 6 months after that, guess what happened? The most amazing thing in the world. He walked 36 holes in one day.
Oh, my gosh.
And he 85, 95 for 2 rounds, with 60 spectators watching him, with TV news crews interviewing him all day and covering it. We had newspaper guys there as well. And it was the most amazing thing you'd ever seen from a sports psych and a coach standpoint. I'm like, this man learned everything that you could ever imagine from a sports psych standpoint, and applied it and improved 120 strokes in less than a year. And that story was on the Golf Channel with Al Tays, and he's called it one of the most inspiring golf stories in the last 40 years. So that's amazing from there. And then once Al Tays put the story on Golf Channel, PGA Reach and Scott Kimmick saw our story, and they asked us to champion the program here in Charleston for PGA Hope. And in the last 2 years, the program's grown from 5 veterans the first time we did it to 19 the second, to 40 the third, to 60 the fourth, to 80 the fifth, and now this time we've got 100 veterans in our program, and they're all benefiting from what we call golf therapy, and they're able to trade nightmares and flashbacks for golf dreams and new friendships, and it's just been a wonderful process throughout.
So tell us a little bit more in depth about that program and how it's bringing veterans into the game who might not have been in the game before, or veterans who were in the game, and how it's helping them overcome these post-traumatic stress and the vigors of being in the military and being injured.
Right. And that's the interesting thing there. We having post-traumatic stress myself, and Fred having post-traumatic stress, and Perry Green, our lead instructor, his son having post-traumatic stress. We've dealt with post-traumatic stress. We know a lot of things. And then we had also some of the counselors from the VA help us as well. We set up an environment where it was a safe environment for the veterans. We kept everything in mind, what things would tend to trigger post-traumatic stress, and we kept those things in mind and away from our situation. Like we would never have a clinic at the back of an enclosed driving range because Vietnam veterans were expecting the Viet Cong to come out of the woods. People wouldn't think about that. We had to actually teach that to Judy Alvarez and Dave Windsor, the trainers for PGA Hope. The other thing, working through, knowing what the triggers are for the veterans is an important thing to help see when they're starting to get uneasy and edgy, and then diffusing situations that way. And those of us that have post-traumatic stress, we know the signs. And that's something we're always aware of. But as the program grew from 5 veterans to 19, the veterans themselves became our biggest promoters of the program. And we asked them to come back as peer mentors and volunteering for the program. And we put together fire units and squads as a result of that. So the peer mentors that have benefited from the program coming back now have the other veterans' backs. And as a result of that, they have somebody that's caring for them, and they have close friendships. And if you know anything about post-traumatic stress, the harsh thing about it is many of these veterans, since they've left the military, have not had any close friends. People do not know what post-traumatic stress is like experientially. And as a result of that, they had relationship issues. They didn't have a lot of friends, a lot of anger issues. But with these veterans working in conjunction with each other and our program, now we have a group of close to 60 to 80 veterans that have been through our program that now have each other's backs and play golf regularly on a weekly basis with each other. And now there's a good system in place to support them, and that's the beautiful thing about the program.
Well, it's an amazing thing, and that for veterans who can relate so much better because they've been through this themselves, and then to help those other veterans, and it's a wonderful thing that they're doing that because they understand they've been through it, and then I'm sure that they've seen that this program has helped them tremendously.
Yeah, and as I said, the way I characterize it, after interviewing the veterans, I'm a writer, so I can put things in words that way. But the underlying principle was the veterans were able to trade nightmares and flashbacks for golf dreams and new friendships. So rather than having post-traumatic stress nightmares at night, they're dreaming about golf and golf shots, and it's an amazing thing. And when when the next time they get to play with their new friends, and that's been a wonderful thing. And I hear that from a lot of the veterans too. And it's like, okay, and a lot of these guys are dealing with bipolar manic depression or OCD and other conditions, addictions to pain meds in combination with PTSD, because typically there's other things that work on there as well. And this helps in so many different ways, and that's a beautiful thing. But it's not limited just to post-traumatic stress, and that obviously we've got amputees, we've got traumatic brain injuries, we've got those with mobility challenges, with paraplegics, and that's a wonderful thing. We have the adaptive equipment that goes with that as well. But as I said, the program just continues to grow, and we're really only scratching the surface right now of what could be done if everybody gets in the boat and rows in the same direction.
You know, and it's funny that by the misfortune that you had by a tragic accident, how many lives have been touched due to that one accident, and your recovery and you bringing that to other people. I mean, it's a very heartwarming story, and I commend you tremendously on what you're doing for others, due to the fact that you went through something. You understand what it's like for others to go through things. They might not have been exactly what you went through, but it's still traumatic. And for you to bring that time and interest and into their lives, it's just really, I commend you tremendously.
Well, thank you on that. And if I didn't help them with the knowledge that I had, I would have to hate the world from that standpoint. I learned some very valuable lessons on my own road to recovery. And, we figured out between Fred Gutierrez and myself when we were writing our book, Half Paralyzed, Twice Strong, that, between the two of us, there's over 1 billion people worldwide that have one or more of the conditions we have. And if we can help some of them, that's a wonderful thing. And that provides meaning to our own suffering, and also is very fulfilling to be able to change the trajectory of somebody's life. In our book, Half Paralyzed, Twice Strong, it goes with the framework of the donkey in the well story. I don't know if you know the donkey in the well story, but the donkey in the well story is a wonderful synopsis and analysis of the book. And it starts off with, there's this older donkey on the farm, and it's probably outlived his usefulness as a worker on the farm, but the farmer lets it go off and play. And while on one of his journeys that day, this donkey goes on to an old abandoned well and falls into the bottom of it. And now it goes Eeyore, Eeyore, to trying to get the attention of the owner of the farm. And he finally gets over there and goes, "What has this donkey done now? Last place I'd look, fallen in the bottom of a well. How do I get him out? Weighs hundreds of pounds." So he goes, okay, after about a half hour thinking about it, he calls up some friends and he says, "Come on over, we're going to close the well as we bury the donkey." So they start, shoveling dirt into this well. And as they shovel dirt into this well, right, this donkey makes a lot of noise starting out, but then quiets down. After about 25 or 30 minutes of shoveling, one of the farmers walks over to this well and looks down to see how much more work they have. But to his amazement, this donkey, with every load of dirt that got shaken onto his back, shook it off and stepped up. In an instant, the mission changed. That mission became, we can rescue this donkey now, because it refused to quit. So they shoveled the dirt harder and faster on there. The donkey shook it off, stepped up. Before long, this donkey crested the top of the well and ran off all happy. And at that point, all the farmers dropped their shovels and applauded this stubborn beast who refused to quit. So what's the lesson in this here?
It never quit. No matter how far you're down, no matter what, even if they're trying to bury you, don't give up. There's a way out, as long as it's in your heart to do that. I know that I personally have gone through something like that myself, and not quite as to the severity that you have, but and here I am standing and doing these shows. So it is a great story. It is a great inspiration, and I think that sometimes, not to get religious on this, but I think that sometimes God gives us things that is going to make us better in the end, through our suffering, that we can help others who are suffering. and feel their pain and assist them. Whereas maybe if we didn't go through that suffering ourselves, we never would have gone down that path.
Well, very much so. You know, the empathy that I learned from being in the well myself, when I got out of the well, when I recovered, then I turned around and offered Fred a hand up. And now the two of us are standing on top of the well with our hand down in the well to help others out of it. Our story is a little different from a standpoint that you mentioned a lot of good points, but when people see that somebody that's got an injury, illness, and challenge refuses to quit, that they have the indomitable spirit, invariably there's a rescue mission to help them. And that's really what we're able now to confer and to tell everybody. It's a rescue mission, and that's really what PGA Hope Charleston has been about, and the message that we try and get out to the other adaptive golf programs out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a remarkable story. And I think that the other thing that I feel about this story is that golf, as a sport in general, has helped so many people. I think that golf has done more for people than any other sport that I've ever seen or been involved in.
Well, you think about the combination of the fundraising effort,
yes,
and then the therapeutic nature of the game too. The National Alliance of Accessible Golf has, and the Accessibility Center up in Indiana, they did a study with the U.S. Census, and that showed that there's some amazing numbers. There's 5.7 million people that are playing golf now that have a disability. That's 22% of the people that play golf in the United States. That's an amazing number right there. USGA talking about having a golf tournament now, a national championship for men and women with individuals with disabilities. Great idea. That's 1/5 of your golfers. That's a wonderful thing. Second thing that's really interesting to me is that we have 12.95 million people in this United States that used to play golf that no longer play golf because they have an injury, illness, or challenge. All these were avid golfers. Now, that's half the number of golfers in this country, right? If there's 25 million roughly golfers in this country, 12.95 we've lost to injuries, illnesses, or challenges. Now, imagine we get some of them back. We give them the gift of golf back through some of these programs. That would be a huge number added to the thing. As well as there are 20 million people that have never played golf before that want to learn how to play golf as a form of therapy. So there's 33 million potential golfers wanting to play, and there's 24.7 million active golfers currently. Now, I'm sorry, as a marketing guy, as a guy in the golf industry, I'm going, this could be the greatest PR campaign ever in the history of golf. And, it would really have a huge impact, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I mean, and when we look at golf as a whole, and if we look at some players, I mean, a good example is Alice Cooper, and that's who I'm thinking of here.
Right.
Alice Cooper had an addictive personality. He was a rock and roll guy, and he had a lot of addictions. And he replaced those addictions with the addiction of golf. And golf is an addiction. I mean, it is for me. It probably is for you. And it is for all of us. It's this type of sport that once you get it in your blood, you can't shake it. But it's a good addiction. It's an addiction that helps us in life. It helps us overcome other things. It helps us understand how if things aren't going our way, that if we keep working through it, that we can still make par in life. And to me, I mean, I know that golf has been a vehicle for me to better understand myself and to make me a better person. Golf has definitely made me a more giving and more and a more tolerant, and it gave me a lot more patience. Which when I was younger I didn't have. My mother used to say, you need more patience. You need more patience. I didn't have any patience.
Yeah.
Now I think I have a tremendous amount of patience, and I attribute that to golf.
Everybody that teaches the game of golf needs to have the patience of Job. Really, from a standpoint, it's one of the great qualities. But you mentioned about the addictive personality stuff with Alice Cooper. The last month, I'd been writing some stories for my blog and everything, and I actually wrote my story about the hardest battle I fought, which was my battle with prescription painkillers after my accident. And the first one was the first year, a living hell. Literally, my life was a living hell, and it continued for close to 4 years at that point, battling the addiction. The second part of the story was the introduction of golf as my therapy, right? Talking about my comeback in golf. And the third part of the series was trading an unhealthy addiction for a healthy addiction. Sound familiar? That's exactly the story from that. That was how golf therapy was born right there. And I like to think that my attitude is contagious to help other people also develop that passion for the game of golf. Yeah, I think that's really key for any instructor.
I think there's some wives out there who don't think that golf's a healthy addiction, but I want to reach out to them and say that their husbands could be, instead of out on the golf course with their buddies, they could be in a bar, or they could be running around with another woman, or they could be getting into some other type of criminal activity or trouble. And if golf can keep them on the straight and narrow, and maybe they might not be with you for that, they say golf widows, but really, a lot of those golfers that are in that situation, it could be really a lot worse. And having that addiction is a good thing because it's healthy for you too. I mean, especially if you're walking the golf course, it's a healthy thing. It's good for your body. It's good for your mind. You get outside. You enjoy nature. You enjoy camaraderie with other people. Maybe it's always the same people. Maybe it's not. For me, I never, for the time that I played a lot when I was younger, in my 30s, and learning the game, I always played by myself, and I always met new people, and I met on the golf course, and then we had the same interests, and then we became friends. So there's a lot of great things about the sport, on top of all the other wonderful things that we just spoke about, is how it can change people's lives, turn them around, bring them back from the dead, because of that desire.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Don, we change the trajectory of somebody's life. Imagine somebody with post-traumatic stress who's locked into their house for 7 years because they wanted to shut the world out by shutting themselves in. We've had stories like that where now this man is addicted to the game of golf, can't wait to play golf on a weekly basis, and works through there and wants to help the other veterans in the program. That's really a change that takes place, and we've had it happen numerous times in our program. May not have been 7 years, but it would be, for a long time they were afraid to go out, and that's one of the wonderful things where you can trade a poor quality of life for a better quality of life, a healthier lifestyle, and everybody in the family benefits from that. And I think the wives of the veterans of PGA Hope Charleston will tell you they want them on the golf course.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, instead of being in the house, and I'm sure too that this leads to other things of them getting out in the world in other ways, not just in golf, because now it brings them a little bit out of their shell, and they don't feel as like they want to lock the whole world away from them. So if they're going out and going to the golf course to play, then maybe they're doing other things, or maybe they're saying, "Hey, you know what? I have a handicap here, but if I can do this, then I can maybe contribute to society in some other way too." Even though I've done a tremendous contribution by serving my country and doing what I needed to do. But we all want to feel useful in some way. And I think that sometimes when these veterans run into this situation, and then they're locked inside, they also feel like they're not useful to society and they're, as they were before.
Very much the case there. Post-traumatic stress is a toxic condition, and it really affects the confidence of an individual. It affects the way they think. And sort of what we've created here is the growth mindset. And it's really changed attitudes that way there. But the beautiful thing about these veterans that have been through our program coming back as peer mentors is if you know the addiction cycle, the last step in the addiction cycle and coming out of it is mentoring someone else. And that's what we've done. They've come back and they've mentored someone else. And when you are able to mentor someone else and empathize with their situation and think about their issues over your own, you can't be narcissistic. You cannot be self-absorbed. You now are making contributions. And now these guys and these veterans are making some great contributions towards the society right now and their communities, where they become leaders where before they were afraid to be involved. So that's been a wonderful thing.
Now, have you had thoughts of expanding this around the country and maybe going around the country and talking to other chapters, PGA sections about putting together a program like this for veterans, and maybe in each I want to say in each PGA section there has to be someone who knows of veterans or may have been in that situation that you've gone through in some way, shape, or form, that would be interested in running a program like this and making it so that it touches more lives and just continues to grow.
Well, when we first started PGA Hope Charleston, there were about 5, there were a number of programs around the country, but only about 5 of them were active. And then, we were able to create the model here and continue to grow and then do the fundraising for it. And then through my golf therapy group on Facebook, which has grown now to close to 7,000 participants, many of them are people with injuries, illnesses, and challenges. Many of them are the 47 or so organizations in this country that do adaptive golf, whether they're a PGA Hope chapter or an adaptive golf or an accessible golf chapter. So we've become an information source and a motivational spot for people that need help on a daily basis, shall we say, and motivation that way. I get calls every week from different sections, people that are on our Facebook page or on my LinkedIn page, Bernie, asking about how do I start a program in my area. And we're the model program for the PGA Reach office and PGA Hope. So I tell them the things that I've done and I've shared with them. So right now I believe there's about 35 to 40 chapters in the country. And the goal of the PGA is to have a PGA Hope chapter in each section. And that's the first goal. And then beyond that, having more. And, some of my favorite ones are Ty Anderson in Dothan, Alabama. He's doing a great job. Mark Croft out in Yuma, Arizona, and Tucson out there. They're doing a great job. And then Susie Schneider out in the Northern California area. They're doing a great job. And then up in the Boston area, the Golf for All group, they're doing some wonderful things too. And as it continues to grow, more and more veterans' lives are touched. And if we can save lives, if we can have individuals that have post-traumatic stress, learn to use golf as therapy, find new friends, trade those nightmares and flashbacks, and have fewer veterans commit suicide, as well as, first responders. The firemen and police officers, they have post-traumatic stress as well.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Been a medic who's and sees things that leave indelible marks. Women that have had sexual abuse,
yes,
or domestic abuse, they have post-traumatic stress as well. Then you have anybody like myself that had a traumatic accident. It leaves an indelible mark, and we experience the same symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And our idea is to be able to help all of them use golf to trade those nightmares and flashbacks for golf dreams and new friendships. And, I'm fortunate that, I have a gift for writing words and communicating the experience. And that's one thing there. So, I've been more or less the voice box of adaptive golf. And that's a good thing. And I'm happy to do that because it can help people. And if we can inspire, imagine 100 golf professionals in this country to get involved in these programs and start a new program, and each of them have, 50 veterans in their program. That's a lot of lives we can help. And then imagine doing that a couple times a year. Beautiful thing. And the game, it's a great public relations tool for the game of golf, but it also changes lives, and that's even more important.
That's what the most important thing is that if any way that we can change a life and maybe relieve some stress in people's lives, and give them some time that they can have some enjoyment, it's going to cause a ripple effect. And I've always felt that, and that's why I got involved in golf, was because I felt that it was a way for me to help people relieve some type of stress in their lives, by getting their mind off of that stress for a short period of time and playing a little bit better golf. And when they do, they go home and they're in a better mood, and their lives are just a little bit more enriched that day. And to me, that's the main reward of being involved in this game. And that's another reason why I do this show, is because if there's any way that I can help anyone out there through golf, then to me, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and what God has called me to do. And not quite as high as the calling that you've received, but there's still a calling there, and I'm doing my best to make that calling come to fruition each and every day.
Yeah. And thank you for the opportunity to be on your show, because, message may get out to some of your viewers and listeners here that may not have been reached otherwise, and that may have a huge impact further. And, if we can start new programs around the country and get those going, and just to think of the impact that golf professionals and caring individuals in the community can do. Well, we're very fortunate here in Charleston to have Hardee's and Bobby Medlin, who's our sponsor there, and the Stars for Heroes program, the Independence Fund that's done here as well, and then also the Stand Up and Play Foundation with the amazing wheelchair that lifts up and allows individuals with mobility challenges to stand up and live their life, look people in the eye, changes a lot of the different digestive tract things as well, improves circulation, allows them to hunt, fish, golf, walk the dog, or whatever you want to do at that point. It really changes a lot of things, and we're so thankful for our sponsors that have allowed us to do these different programs and to be able to help as many as we have.
It's truly an inspirational story. It really is. It's just truly inspirational, Rich, and I thank you so much for being here. So, for our listeners, our viewers, our viewers on YouTube, our listeners out there on iTunes and Google Play and all those places, and our viewers who are involved in Facebook, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you, especially in that Facebook group, so that they can reach out and talk to you if they might be interested in putting together a program, or if they're just interested in becoming part of this community? And is there a website that they can reach out to you, and a phone number too?
Well, I'll start off with the Facebook group. It's called Golf Therapy, Using Golf to Overcome Injuries, Illnesses, and Challenges. Send me a request to join the group. You'll get a daily message there of the happenings in the golf industry that have to do with adaptive golf, motivational things as well on there, and that's a good thing. Secondly, anybody wants to go on LinkedIn, they can connect with me there. On LinkedIn, I do my blog on LinkedIn. It's Rich O'Brien Golf Writer at that point there. Hang on a second here. But my phone, but Rich O'Brien Golf Writer on there, and you can get connected with me there as well. And that would be one thing. But my phone number is 843-826-0837. Always happy to help any organization looking to get started. I've written the model from there, and are happy to share that and go forward as well. So those are some different things. But if they really want to learn more about me, they can look up on Amazon, Half Paralyzed, Twice Strong. It's the book that myself and Fred Gutierrez wrote along with Linda Falter, our editor and co-writer. It's our story. It's the story that started with my injuries, my recovery, and then also talked about Fred's injuries, his recovery, our amazing story to him playing 36 holes and shooting in the 80s, less than a year after starting to play. And imagine somebody that's paralyzed on half their body doing that. It's just been a great story.
It's remarkable, and I urge all our listeners to go to Amazon and get that book, and I'm sure that the story is truly inspirational. And once again, Rich, I thank you so much for being here with us today, and all the best of luck to you and in all the endeavors that you're doing. It's an awesome thing.
Well, thank you, Bernie, and look forward to seeing the program played back and seen by individuals that can help, and then answering their questions when it's available.
That's great. Well, Rich, until we meet again, do your best to keep it in the short grass, and we'll be in touch when the show is launched.
All right. Thank you kindly, Bernie. You have a great day.
You too. Take care.
You've been listening to Breaking Par with your host, Bernard Sheridan. Follow us on Twitter @BreakingPar and on Facebook @Par Breakers Golf Academy. Until next week, try to keep it on the short grass.